Okay, Zahee, in Mosul, there's churches going back 1600 years. Are they still standing?
Most of them, the ones in Mosul, have been either decimated, blown up, or they've gone up to the top, ripped the cross off, and turned into a mosque. I mean, one of the bishops in Mosul was screaming against it because he said, "You've got a mosque pretty much in every corner of that city, and that's still not enough for you. You've still got to destroy our churches and turn them into mosques as well."
Can ISIS, is there anyone in them or amongst them that can understand reason, that can be spoken to?
No, not at all. Not in the frame of mind that they are in and the way they live their life. No, they're not people to reason with.
Do they embrace poverty?
Not for themselves, of course.
They don't have a land title system, do they?
Because what happened in Mosul is I used to wear the shirt. It's I don't know if you've seen it at the end,
yes,
the Arabic end. So what they did was they went like a Holocaust. You know, they painted the lettering on every house that was, because it stands for Nazarene, which is Christian.
Nazarene.
Yeah, and anyone who was in that was to either leave or convert to Islam or to be beheaded. So it's their land in their mind.
As an aside, the colour that I'm wearing, I wear this out of solidarity for reporters who've had their heads cut off on live videos.
Okay.
What's with this colour? Why do they parade people in this colour? Is this a prison colour, or is it just a coincidence, or does the colour have any significance?
I'm not, that I don't know. I'm pretty sure it is something to do with the prisons, but yeah.
It's their prison colour.
Yeah.
So, since that can't be reasoned with, to get a safe haven state in Iraq, is it possible?
If great force was used, yes.
Great force.
And if the Christians in Iraq had a way of defending themselves.
And who's likely to provide that defence?
Well, the UN it would be great if they stepped in. That would be a real big help.
It's become an Islamic organisation, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I see the French have mobilised 10,000 soldiers. The army is mobilised in France today.
Yeah, the French, to be honest, they were first people to get in there and actually help out, get some aid across and everything. So, they did help out. And
they went to Mali 2 years ago? And stopped ISIS attacking Mali.
Yeah.
So the French did come. Is there Muslim troops in the French army?
No.
It's a pretty frightening affair.
Yeah.
With Australia, what do you imagine an Australian government should do to protect Australia from becoming like Northern Iraq, like Iraq?
Well, if there's Australians that don't think that similar stuff that's happening overseas is brewing here in Australia, you are so ignorant. And what gets under my skin is when I look at shows like Quanda, and they're talking about how Muslims have been victimised in Australia.
Q&A on ABC.
Q&A.
Yeah.
And I watched, I think, 2 or 3 shows with the same topic. We're getting victimised, we've got to educate these guys.
I'm barred from the Q&A.
Yeah, okay.
They won't even take a question.
I didn't look at any of my tweets that I kept sending to them. Because I was thinking to myself, well, excuse me, so these guys are being victimised, I feel so sorry for them.
Yeah.
What's happening to people in Iraq that are being beheaded? Kids are actually watching their parents being slaughtered in front of them. All that stuff. They're being sold as sex slaves. The list just goes on with the barbaric things that they're doing today. They've been doing for the last few months. Who's the real victims here? So we've got national shows talking about how the Muslims are so victimised in Australia. They're getting, give me a bloody break. Like, look at what's happening in Iraq. Why are we talking about what's going on over there? Why are we talking about stopping it from happening here? Why are we talking about the idiots that they're letting, they're sending over there that are, so to speak, Australians, but Muslims that are going there to help ISIS?
What would you do with a Muslim that left Australia to go and take heads in Iraq and want to come back?
That's, to even consider letting them back in the country is just absurd. It's just ludicrous. If the government actually allow that, and if any terror happens after that, then the finger's got to be pointed at the government. Not the Muslims, the government.
One of the greatest crisis questions that is faced by the current government is taking the passport off somebody going to ISIS or not taking the passport off them.
Why is that even a question?
Why do they let them? The problem is that the current government has said we're going to stop somebody going. We're going to take the passports off people and stop them going. On the basis that why should we let some evil go to another country? So that means you're going to keep the evil in your own country.
Yeah.
I find it enormously difficult to come to grips with how our government can restrict them from going. If they're to be restricted from going there, surely they should be restricted from being in our society here.
Of course they should. Yeah. And like I said, that fellow that did what he did in Sydney, he has to. The people he associated with, his background, all that sort of stuff, they've got to look into all that and see where that came from. It has to come from somewhere. It's not from him.
The surveillance cost. Which country in the world can afford Islam?
Saudi Arabia.
They can afford it because they've got oil.
Yeah.
And they never found the oil in the first place. They never had a market for it. They had no knowledge to develop it, and the West gave it to them. Just gave them the oil and then gives them the market to sell the oil in. And allows them to fund this kind of activity all around the world. Maybe that's an answer to remove the oil as an income for them and give them a live on money instead. Stop the Mosque has had several plans to find a way to try to convince the Australian people of the grave and current danger we face. And really appreciates you coming and telling us the story.
Pleasure.
I'd like to know what else you'd like to say about the situation in Iraq now today.
Well, there's that, but I just want to touch on one thing as well for Australians, because I know there's a lot of moderate Muslims, and I've even got friends that are Muslims as well, that don't agree with what's going on in Iraq, and they're highly against it.
Why aren't they more verbal?
That was exactly what I was about to say. It's them and all the other Muslims that say, well, this doesn't represent Islam. They're the ones who need to be marching in the streets condemning what's going on in Iraq, but they're not. They're quiet. And I challenge any Muslim that, whether they watch this and all that stuff, my challenge to them is to actually get up, speak out against it. I'm a Christian. If there's going to be Christians out there, they're going to be doing what ISIS are doing, I'm going to be the first to be condemning them, online as much as I can, whatever opportunity I can to say, hey, this does not represent us.
But as a Christian, you aren't threatened with death if you denigrate the Pope.
Yeah, that's right.
You're free to say what you want about the Pope, and they're not free to condemn or contest the activity.
Well, that's true, yeah. But from what we know statistically, there's about 70-75% of Muslims that are,
practicing.
Well, not that. They're moderate Muslims. They're not fundamentalists. They're not extremists. They're the ones that need to be speaking up and saying, "Hey, we're against this. This has got to stop," and actually creating campaigns and whatnot.
Has there ever been one Muslim in Australia who's definitely done that in any positive way?
I don't really know.
I don't know
of any. The only thing that I keep hearing is that, you can't be judging Islam because of this. You can't be like, okay, well, all right, well, we won't judge it, but why don't you speak up against it? Why don't you say this is wrong? ISIS shouldn't be doing this. ISIS at a disgrace. Blah blah. Why isn't this going on? Instead of just defending your religion, stand up against the guys that are apparently defaming your religion.